When I think of the things I used to think about myself, it's so sad. And if I'm not aware of them, I will go right back there. And so changing people's thoughts, getting them to be aware of their thoughts is like a number one passion I have with my clients.
So you have a passion for fitness and the desire to start your own business. But launching a massively successful fitness business is extremely complex. The systems, operations, hiring, firing, coaching, sales, and marketing are critical to success. Where do you even start? This show will give you the answer. Here is Bedros Keuilian and Bryce Henson, your hosts of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms.
Welcome back, friends, to another phenomenal episode, as today's guest is a dear friend of mine who's also a certified nutrition coach and operator of Herndon Fit Body Bootcamp in Fresno, California. Now, she's also an incredible client transformation story, having lost 180 pounds, and of course, having battled through obesity for decades, and then having changed her life, she is now on a mission to change others' lives in the process. So Darrylyn Silva, welcome to the show. So excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I feel very welcome.
Oh,
thank you.
Fantastic. So I've been waiting for this for a while, so we're going to get through a lot of great content. You have an incredible backstory.
Yes.
So we're going to start there. Give us the backstory.
All right. So basically, my entire life I was overweight. It was never like a few pounds here or there. It was morbid obesity, basically from elementary school through adulthood. The painful stories of being not just the chubby kid or the kid who was awkward in PE class, but like true traumatic childhood experiences dealing with obesity. I wasn't sick, but just in our home, we were always told we were smart. We had awesome spirited discussions. My father was a farmer, so he was his own kind of entrepreneur. Raised with super amazing parents, but we just weren't movers. And I don't think my parents really knew how to eat well, so we didn't, basically. And I would see other families like do active things like biking and walking, and it just wasn't us. That's just not what we did. We did other things that were super interesting and fun, and I was super loved and nurtured and taken care of, but in the idea of anything physical was not for us. Yeah. So very early on, I was overweight, and
now, were your parents overweight as well?
They were. Okay. Yeah, they were. So was my sister and I, my parents, and we just were. And genetically speaking, I don't think there was a lot there. When I look at our extended family, it's not really a thing. So it was definitely an environment thing for us. And we loved food and we enjoyed food. And my mom worked a lot of hours. And again, they were awesome parents, took super good care of us, very engaged, but that just wasn't a priority in our home. So It was just understood early on that wasn't who we were. And it was fine when I was home, but when I went out in the world, it was really hard. So
talk us through that. Like, what did that look like?
It is incredibly painful. I feel like now I'm able to look back on it and just see how, the coping mechanisms that I use, of course, some of them were food, binging and then restricting and then trying to figure it out and then figuring out that it wasn't like, I'll just never be a healthy, fit person. Like, that's just not who I am. It's impossible for me.
That identity was at that point.
That identity was just all the way there. So if you would have asked me, are you smart? Yes. Are you an achiever? Yes. Like, I was all of those things, but I didn't have control over that. But it was just who we were. It wasn't like it was a thing we were lacking. It just was like, that's who they are. And I knew early on I didn't love that, mostly because of the reflection that would come back at me from other people. But, just in junior high, sometimes I'll hear other coaches talk about their painful experiences, and I don't mean to take anything away from them because everyone has their own levels of pain. But, I wasn't trying to get out of PE, but think about like, being so overweight in 7th and 8th grade that they don't have PE clothes that fit you.
Yeah.
Right? They don't make them for you. So if ever there's a message being sent to a young girl, like, you're so unwelcome in fitness that we don't even have clothes to fit you, but we require you wear them. So then you're wearing clothes that don't fit you to do activities you don't know how to do.
Feeling so alienated.
Disenfranchised, like, to the highest degree. And so for me, a coach was in my mind, like a bully. Because really now, looking back, like if those things happened now, like for sure a teacher, a coach would not be able to treat a student that way.
Right.
But they did. And I'm sure in their mind, they were trying to encourage me out of being fat, but really it just drove me to, isolate more and really despise movement and really to cement the belief that fitness wasn't for me.
Right.
And so, so that's just one example. But there's so many just growing up. I couldn't buy clothes at regular stores. Like they have plus sizes even at Target or wherever, but in junior high, having to go to like one of 3 stores that would fit you. And they were really for like moms. They weren't for teenage girls.
And think about it, like, we all can kind of probably resonate with this when you're going through adolescence and all that. It's already a self-conscious time to begin with, even if everything's like
awesome.
Put together.
Yes.
And then you layer on that. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a tough journey.
Yeah, it really was. And it started very young, not being able to fit in the desks at school, right? Getting on the bus and not being able to make it down the aisleway, mm-hmm. right? Like there's so many places that that size affects you. And as adults now we look at it and we're preventing stroke and we're preventing diabetes mm-hmm. and bad knees and all of that. But there is this deeper, underlying effect of the sin of being fat in America. And there just is.
Like that was even called like a trauma.
It 100% is.
And granted, I say that loosely because I haven't gone through that, right? So
absolute trauma.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And the idea of when I did start to work out and walk on my own, and I would work out, Billy Blanks in my living room, right? Like doing kickboxing, like that, Richard Simmons, like I did it by myself because to me, wherever I would go and do that, I would have been ridiculed. Mm-hmm. I would have been treated poorly. I would have been treated like I didn't belong mm-hmm. because I didn't, right? Put me in a classroom, put me in a work environment, put me in a place where I could debate you, where we could have ideas and discuss things. Like I could totally dominate. Yeah, I could crush you. Like I could argue and tell you about both sides of every subject, mm-hmm. but put me in a situation where I would have to skip, jump, do a push-up, I would retreat immediately,
Whew. Well, so continue on. So you're going through school now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious how that journey kind of unfolds.
Yeah, so I actually had a gift, or have a gift, for music. I love theater and I could sing. And so I found a home in the choir and in musical theater, drama. I found a home there. Like I was able.
In high school?
It was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got to do a little bit of debate. I got to do a lot of drama, a lot of musical theater, a lot of choir, and I thrived in that. And so I was able to really express myself, be with other people who are kind of weird and geeky and mm-hmm. strange, mm-hmm. but in their own amazing way. Like there's just nothing like a bunch of musical theater kids. But then in the same vein, there were lots of things even in that I couldn't do. So I had a very special kind of operatic voice and I could sing and I excelled in that. But then when I would do musical theater, I could never have the part, right? Because the part's always like the pretty, petite, sweet, I couldn't be Anna in The King and I couldn't be Maria in The Sound of Music. I got great parts. I had the singing part. I was like, great, but I could never be the part.
And I'm sure that probably ate at you considering like your strong skill set.
Yeah, for sure. And there was no misunderstanding that given a different body, I could have been in a different position, but that's who I was. And now I see all the time, like African Americans being cast in parts that were traditionally a white mm-hmm. part, and I see someone in a wheelchair being put in a part that was traditionally a big dancing part in mm-hmm. shows, and I'm like, it's really great that they're like having this great crossover. Because when I was in theater, of course I'm getting old, but you couldn't do that. The part was the part. You had to look the part, sound the part, act the part, and if you didn't, then you were out. And my regular life was like that, and so it really hurt. That I couldn't ever break that ceiling to be that part, even on stage. Yeah. So that was tough. Went through college. Once I got out of high school, I was very much better with whoever I was. If I was 200 pounds, 300 pounds, I maxed out a little over 330 pounds. I was not good with that, but I understood it and I could still execute at a high level. I got my first jobs and I worked with a company that had 500 franchises, and I got to do HR for them. And I handled all of the corporate stores and all of the we called them jobbers, and I got to handle their HR, and I was able just to really do well. And the people liked me, and I was able to be a grown-up, and it didn't really matter that I was overweight. Like, I was able to do well despite that. And so I was okay with myself. I had kind of gotten to a point where I didn't want to, like, if you would have asked me, like, do you want to lose weight? I probably would have said yes. But the truth is that I wasn't in this, like, constant turmoil that you hear. Like, people are like, I've been on a diet for 30 years. I had reached the point where I was like, I can't spend emotional energy on that because I have all of these other things that are awesome, and I'm just not going to. I met my husband, and he really loves me and loved me when I was very overweight, and loves me now. Like, he didn't care about any of that. He literally never saw me like I was. Strangely. And so I had a husband, and we had a life, and I had a great job, and I was ready just to keep moving with that.
And are you about your 30s now? Or?
Yeah, my mid-20s.
Okay.
But then we decided to have a child, and we were really excited about that, and I had really only ever wanted to be a really good mom. Like, I knew that I was meant to be a mom early on, and I got to the age where it was good, and then I could not. We weren't conceiving, and it was because of my weight.
Because of the obesity.
Because of my weight. My doctor had been my doctor for my whole life, basically, and said, I don't think there's anything really wrong. I just want you to lose 50 pounds, and then let's see in 6 months, as your hormones kind of regulate, if we get pregnant. If we don't, then we'll send you for some specialty work. Kind
of like implying that could be a cause of this.
100%. Yeah. He was very plain. He was very kind, but plain. And I never knew that. Now I'm like, duh. But at the time, no idea that that was a thing. And so we got right to work on that. So I burned up the streets just walking. I didn't really know what else to do as far as exercise. And I walked. As I grew up, I learned a lot about nutrition, but it was in the 80s and early 90s where everything was low fat. So it was totally cool to eat a lot of jelly beans and popcorn because it was fat free.
Yes. And as long as your sugar's there, but as long as it's fat free, you're good to go.
Fat free, you're fine. You'll totally lose weight, and you did, right? When we got started with FitBody, I told Michael we think that fat people don't know about nutrition, but they know a lot about nutrition. They've done every diet. They know a lot. And I did. And so I just started reading everything. I just became voracious about it. If there was an article, a book, a person, I wanted to know everything they knew about it. And so I did. I lost about 50 pounds and
per doctor's order.
Per doctor's order. And lo and behold, we got pregnant. So that was awesome. And for the first time in my life, I became super pregnant with my oldest, Harrison. I became I became more fit than I ever had been my whole life. My Y was so ginormous. This baby was everything I had ever hoped for, and I was going to be a fit mom, and I was going to have a good labor. And so I worked out with Julia Michaels in my front room.
Nice.
And I did it every day, and I walked every day. And so by the time I got to my end of my pregnancy, I weighed less than when I started. And then I just continued that through 4 children. So by the time each of them had 4 children, by the time I got to the end of the pregnancies, I'd weighed less than when I started, but had full-term, beautiful, healthy babies.
Good for you.
Yeah, so it's when people ask me, how long did it take you to lose that? And I'm like, well, 15 years. But I did it through 4 pregnancies and nursing 4 babies and all of that. So it took me for a really long time. And then the last 50 pounds was once I found FitBody Bootcamp.
So the first 130 pounds was basically a stretch of 4 years through your pregnancies.
Yeah.
Just a concerted effort. Really, probably the aha and not putting words in your mouth was the fact that you want to conceive a baby.
Yes, that was the final straw. There were other pretty significant setback aha moments. the biggest, I don't really share this with people, but here I go. So,
Here we go.
all right, here, everyone. I went to a theme park with my mom and sister, and we got on the roller coaster, and we sat down, and my mom and sister were not small people either. And I had to get off because it wouldn't click, right? And they had to ask me to get off. I mean, worst. I mean, the worst. And it was awful for me, but it was awful for my poor mother. And it makes me just hurt still, just remembering that I was hurting, but that I was also just hurting for my mom, because she must have felt so bad about me being in that position. And like, just the whole dynamic was hard. So, you know, when I get to work with clients and they have feelings that they can't even quite express and they're crying, like, there's nothing they could say that would surprise me. There's no feeling they're having that I haven't had on the deepest level possible. And so it's kind of a unique perspective now.
Totally. And I want to dive in there, like in you know, some foundational reasons why you've been so successful and the capacity you have. Before we go there, we talked about identity, and you know, we're both students of personal development growth and have a good understanding of identity shapes who you are. It's really interesting hearing your story, because on one hand, your identity was so strong, being the successful, you know, young woman growing up, you had high amounts of confidence, but in this other aspect, it, you know, didn't follow suit. So can you talk about just your identity in the journey?
Sure. So for sure, there was this real dichotomy. Like I on one side, I wasn't afraid of anything. And my dad will tell stories about things that he would I would go do, and he would just be like, I cannot believe she just did that. At a young age, I could accomplish things. I had great grades. I did great things, and I was confident in those things. But then, and if you ask me, I'd say, yep, I'm smart. Yep, I could do that. Yep, I could manage that. And I would figure things out on my own easily. But then in this one side, I really struggled, and I just turned it off. Like, that wasn't going to count. You know, I just did like that. I don't know what it was. It was just like, I can't control that, and so I'm turning it off. And I just turned it off, so I didn't even feel that anymore.
Just like compartmentalize the trauma.
Yeah, I guess so. And it you know, there's times where I'll remember something that it was very traumatic, or something someone said, and I have to like really remember it well, and like make myself remember the details of it, where I was, who was there, what they said, how I felt, what I did, and deal with that. Because if I don't, like, it will just continue to eat me up. Like, that's not who I am anymore. But as I've made progress, not only in my weight journey, but with my children, it's been very important to me to instill in them that they are movers, that they can be athletic, that is who we are, that if they have a body, then fitness is for them. Like, if they have a mouth, then eating healthy food is for them. Like, we have made that foundational in our home. And so... Is
your husband supportive of that as well?
Totally, yes. And he's had his own journey, but has just really always supported them in that, supported me in that. And they're super athletic. And so now I'm the mom, like, the other moms will be like, oh God, your kids always have the healthy food. Oh, your kids always have their water bottles. You know, they're buying Everyday Fit from us. So, you know, that's our new identity. Like, I'm the healthy mom. I'm the mom that brings, you know, the bananas to the competition, like those sorts of things. And so my identity has changed. That's affected my legacy to them. But I don't know if that answers your question completely.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll kind of dive into how you can also probably shape your client's identity as well.
Yeah. You know, the first time that I went to any fitness, so I shifted not only my body and my mindset, but my entire industry, right? So this fitness industry thing is still new to me.
Because you've been in HR up until making the switch.
I was in HR for years, and then I self-employed doing pre-employment background checks, so that's still on the HR side. And then switching into this, the very first fitness thing I did was go to the Fitness Business Summit.
Oh, nice.
Right, and I mean, this is your introduction to fitness industry. And I was like, my mouth was wide open the entire time. And talk about like having this real rub versus like your old self to this new person that you are. And, you know, when when you are 180 pounds overweight or 20 pounds overweight, you know, everybody has vices and everybody has these black spots or these dark sides or the coping mechanisms. 100% of the people we see have them.
Totally.
But when you are someone who struggles with obesity, you get to walk around the world with everyone knowing what your vice is. You know, you walk around the world and before you open your mouth, they know that you overeat. And to be 330 pounds, you don't just eat a couple extra bites, right?
Right.
You binge. And so you walk around with this literal shawl that's shaming. And so then when that's not there anymore, not only do you feel naked, you can't turn to your vice anymore, right? That vice is no longer a vice for you because it's poison.
Poison.
Yeah. And so then I think I'll go into the fitness industry and, you know, show up there and to me, coaches were this thing. And so to transition to like coaches are superheroes and coaches are great people. And I want to be one of them was a very big transition. I mean, to say like, oh, like I love fitness and fitness is great and fitness changed my life and so I'll be a coach is this much of a shift for some people. But to go from where I was to where I am, both internally and externally is, I don't even know what shift could be bigger.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Darrylyn, and you know this, you know, I lost 20 pounds of body fat and put on 20 pounds of muscle, and that changed me. And even for me, it was a big kind of like rewiring of circuitry to be like, oh, actually, I can teach fitness. So the point you just laid out is like literally night and day. And I think that's really, really insightful and valuable.
You feel like, I still feel like when I come to something like this, like,
surreal.
The idea that like, oh, I think I'll be on a fitness business podcast. Yeah, that's what I should be doing right now.
Let's
like
go.
For sure, I was meant for this. But the truth is that I would not be as. Have you been reading Winning?
Yes.
Okay, so
Chapter 3.
Okay, so I finished it today, and he spends a lot of time on the dark side, and then the dark side and the darker side. Of course, in Relentless, we read about the dark side. Then in Winning, he finishes up the book with the darker side. And so the dark side for me would have been like the transformation, but the darker side is now here, you know, being invited to a fitness business podcast or being invited to present to Mastermind or being invited to speak somewhere on something that for so long was something that I absolutely couldn't even deal with. Was such a, you know, it's just so strange and different to me.
Surreal. Well, good on you. First and foremost. And for you listeners, we were talking about the book Winning by Tim Grover. So if you haven't listened to it, please do. All right, so kind of dovetailing a little bit, you know, drilling a little bit more in the story. So up to this point, you kind of gave us the backstory. Over a 15-year journey, 4 kids with basically just movement, walking, and nutrition, you dropped 130 pounds, and then your last 50 is when you basically found Fit Body. So can you kind of walk us through that? Yeah, so I was everything's relative, right? So if you're 330 pounds and you get down to like 200 pounds, somewhere around there, like you're feeling pretty good. I was, right? Like I wasn't any longer, like I would, you know, by my size 12, 14, and I felt great about that because before I was a size 30, like everything's relative. And so I felt really good there. I was able to maintain that without killing myself. Of course, raising 4 children, 6 years and under, as a big job. And so my attention was on that. And so I was good there for a really long time. And sincerely, I don't know what caused the second round of like, turning up the volume, turning up the heat, but because that's going to be harder than the first. I mean, relatively speaking, but as you get fitter and fitter, it takes more
and harder.
It takes more.
No doubt about that. Yeah, absolutely. So I literally remember one morning just waking up, and I got my husband's big Michigan sweatshirt on, and I didn't even have walking shoes anymore, and I just put on my Skechers, and I just was like, I'm going for a walk. And my husband was like, okay, bye.
See ya.
And I remember walking, and the sunshine was kind of, you know, you could see my shadow, and I I could see that's not what I thought I looked like. Like I was like, okay, so that's what I look like in that shadow. That's not really what I think I look like, and I'm not comfortable with how that looks. And I just started walking. And by then I knew Michael, and he started hearing that I was walking, and like, how much are you walking?
And Michael's your partner that
Yes.
basically you guys cooperate and run
Yes.
boot camp.
And so then, of course, he couldn't help himself. Like it was like, well, what else are you doing besides walking? I'm like, I'm just walking. But, he's not a walker. So even when I was walking, 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles, he's like, that's amazing. I've never walked that much. Like that's awesome. He made me feel like a superstar for doing that. And begged me to work out with him. And I was like, never working out with you.
No way.
No, never. I am not working out with you.
Why?
Because I don't work out, Bryce. I don't work out. I'm not a workout person.
Got it.
Not a workout person.
Got it.
That was then.
That was the mentality.
Yeah,
yes.
that's not for me.
Yep.
And his wife and I are friends, and we had other dance mom friends, and they hired a personal trainer, and they were all gonna go, and they of course invited me, and I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that, and I did not like that, and that was the end. It was a hard no. We don't have to discuss that anymore because I'm not going with you to that.
Oh wow.
And then Michael said, just do 30 squats a day. Put your hands right here in praying position. Do 30 squats a day. Just do 30 squats a day. And Michael was doing, other work at that time. And I said, okay, I'll do 30 squats a day. So sure enough, I did my 30 squats a day, and I did my walking. And one day we were at a dance event for our children, and 2 of our friends said, hey, we're going to go to this new fitness place. It's called Fit Body Boot Camp, and it's really expensive. That's what they said. But there's a Groupon, and we were going to do the Groupon. Do you want to do it with us? And I have no idea. I think about this all the time. I have no idea what made me say yes, but it is proof that one yes can shift your life 360. One yes. All it took was one yes. And so we did. And I said yes, and then I went home and bought the Groupon. Okay, I did that. And then we set the time, and I went, and I cried in the parking lot. And I walked in 1 minute late, which is the biggest no-no of the whole world. Now, of course, looking back. And it was awesome. And I never done a push-up before, and that day I did a push-up. And, and then it was on. After that, it was on.
It was on.
I was deep in love with Fit Body Boot Camp in days.
And you originally told Michael no, but then you said yes to the Groupon. So then you're now at his location connecting.
Well, this is before Michael had Herndon Fit Body Boot Camp. I was at Clovis Fit Body Boot Camp. Okay. I was a full-fledged client for a couple of years before Michael opened Herndon. Got it. So, and the owner happens to be at Clovis Fit Body Boot Camp is also a Mike. And so Mike Kirsten was my coach there, and Tom Huff talked about belief and people believing, we have to believe in them before they believe in themselves. And totally. Mike Kirsten believed in me before I believed in myself.
He did.
100%.
Beautiful.
100%. He found out about what my story was and knew I had already lost a lot of weight and knew what a big deal it was that I was there. And he bought into me like nobody's business. He really, really did.
And I think that's so powerful for our audience back home who are interested in entrepreneurship, business, and fitness. Mm-hmm. Like the message there as a coach, many times you actually have to believe in your client before they believe in themselves.
100%. There's no, they've spent their entire lives, many of them decades and decades, mm-hmm. looking for their answers, and they don't believe in themselves. They think that every time they failed, it was their failure. And as did I. Yep. So I showed up there. I remember specifically one time just talking about belief. I like to go 5 days a week, and if I didn't make my 5 days, then I would make myself go on Saturday. And I hated going to the Saturday workouts because Mike did like partner games on Saturday workouts.
Got it.
Boo for me, because
did not want to be connecting with partners.
No, okay. Because I sucked at fitness. And so I didn't want to connect because I didn't want to like be a big old letdown for whoever I got paired up with. I mean, it was like serious PTSD from getting picked never in every other grade, right? Yeah. So he paired me up with poor Larry, and I looked at him and I was like, I'm sorry, Larry. Like, I legit looked at him and I was like, I am so sorry. Like, we are going to lose bad. And Mike said, Mike, or Larry, you're just going to love Darrylyn. Darrylyn never gives up. Never gives up. She says, you don't lose 100 pounds by giving up.
This is what Mike, the owner, said about you
About
in front
me
of Larry,
to
your
Larry.
partner.
Yes, when I was like, I'm sorry, Larry.
Yep.
So it showed, and then I was like, oh, that was really nice. He's right. Like, I don't give up. And in every other area of my life, like, I was a relentless mom. I was a relentless wife. I was a relentless, student. I was a relentless manager and operator. Like, there was no reason for me to not believe in myself doing a 30-minute workout with Larry, right? And Mike pointed that out to me, and that was the first time.
But in fairness, though, it sounds so trivial now, but going through it, it was a very different story,
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I can't overstate, like, that's why I remember it, because it was such a big deal. And I still don't like partner workouts, but I'm much more able to compete now.
Copy that.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll take us now to, Herndon and opening with Michael and all the success you've had. Kind of fill the story in from there.
It's completely insane. I can't even, I don't know how these things happen. But so I was a member at Fit Body Boot Camp in Clovis, had great success there, lost another 50 pounds, Wall of Fame. I'm bought into Fit Body Boot Camp. I'm bought into Bedros Keuilian. I am all in. And then Michael Rodriguez was looking for an opportunity. Hit some circumstances in his life that he'll be able to share at some point. Revealed that he was going to need to change industries. And we were very good friends with him, or remain so. And I love personal development, and I love people finding their passion and their purpose. And so he and I had lots of talks about that. And he started training my daughter at my poking and prodding, who's a dancer. And he was amazing at it. And when I would watch him train her, I noticed, knowing this much about workouts and fitness, that a lot of the things he was having her do were things that we were doing. And I thought that Fit Body Boot Camp might be a good match for Michael in his new endeavor. And so I brought it up to him, and at first he kind of dismissed it, but then, as things continued to move along, he checked it out and he jumped on board, like, real quick. Full, like, he was
straight away.
Yeah, it was like the 1st of July. And I should say with Michael, also as strange, like, Michael doesn't do things like that quickly. He's very cerebral. Like, he really likes to figure things out.
Thinks it through.
Really does.
Yeah.
And so for him to make that quick of a move, just within a couple of weeks, he was figuring out how he would manage to do that. And then he did.
And then off you guys went.
And then off we went. And I was not initially going to even be a part of it, which now...
So this was literally just a recommendation. Hey, this really helped me. Michael, I love you as a friend. I think you're changing industries. This could be great. I'm on the sidelines here.
Check it out. Yeah, come see our place, my Fit Body Boot Camp in Clovis, which was I was just a member. Check it out. And he did. And of course, we talked lots about it, but it wasn't like anything I was doing. And then when he started moving forward, he came to university, and there was just a lot to do. There was a lot to be done, and there was a lot to be done at home, getting ready for everything. And it became like apparent that he was going to need some help.
Yep.
Someone to be there. And so he doesn't know this part, but one day I was like, you should really, I think you should let me help you. Like, I love Fit Body Boot Camp, and I love you, and like, why don't we like figure this out, and we can all, and his wife was like, yes, that would be great. And my husband knew how evangelical I was about Fit Body Boot Camp, and so he was like, oh, that'd be so awesome. And finally, it took a minute, and then Michael was like, "Yeah, I could really use your help if you could help me out some." And so then the next morning, this part Michael doesn't know about. The next morning, I was making coffee, and my husband said, "So you're going to help Michael like get the permits and like get all that footwork done?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." And then, and then I'm going to make myself so indispensable, he'll never be able to get rid of me. And we laughed, ha, ha, ha. And then here I am.
And that you did.
Yeah, I sort of did. Thank goodness, too. So, yeah. And so then we went, he signed July of 2017. We opened July of 2018.
Yeah.
It took us a minute to get all of the bureaucracy dealt with in Fresno. But we did it. And we immediately, we had sort of not instant success, but right off the bat, we connected with a lot of people. We followed the Fit Body Bootcamp blueprint. We did the Ready, Set, Go as carefully as any two people ever have. And we launched, and we opened with about 100 members, actual like EFT members, and we were super tickled with that because we were just trying to make rent, like
Totally.
get our first 50 and we can pay for rent. But we were able to do better than that, and we were really up and running, and then 2020 kind of hit us. So we've had a little setback, but we're excited. Like, I'm excited at the challenge. Right,
Totally.
here we are. We made it. We're still here, and so
With 40% of the industry being eradicated, just obviously and great lockdowns and all the challenge, we're in the fight, and no doubt in my mind, the rebound is going to be that much bigger and beyond.
100%. Yeah, we're really excited. There's a lot of people that really need us more now than ever.
Totally.
Than ever. Yeah.
All right, so let's dive in. And by the way, incredible story. Like literally humbled and touched every time I hear it, and every time I hear it, it's kind of like unpeeling the onion. I hear one more piece, but so blown away.
Thank you.
So talk about your working role with Michael, because certainly he owns the business, but you're the operating kind of partner.
Yeah.
How does that work out? Like, what's the dichotomy like? Who does what, and how does it all kind of work together? And the reason I ask is because partnerships and working teams can be difficult. So what's the secret to success?
I think we both understand each other really, really well.
Yeah.
And we really respect each other a lot. And so I understand the places where he feels really, really strongly, and me. And even though I'm not the owner, Michael really treats me as though I am.
Totally.
I've put in as many hours, if not more, as the Michael. And so we have a really good understanding of the things that are important to one another. And then we really respect how to get each other to process things. I don't mind moving on a dime and making a decision and moving forward, but that will really make him uncomfortable. And so I really pick my moments, like a married couple, I have to pick my moment to present this, and then kind of feed it as needed, and then until we ultimately get to a place where we can make a decision. It makes us a little slower in some ways, but once we're both locked in, then we're in, and we're unstoppable.
Reminds me of a famous saying: "Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast."
Absolutely.
So, would that do a good job of summing up the relationship there?
Absolutely. So yeah, and we respect each other really deeply, and I think sometimes in these partnerships, everyone's just trying to get their own point of view to be heard and seen. But I wouldn't have done this at all if I didn't so deeply believe in him and what he can bring to people's lives, with just his energy and love of fitness and interest in people. And so when I have any doubts, then I just rely on that, knowing my allegiance to him, knowing his deep commitment to humans, right? And then I have a deep commitment to getting the work done and to taking care of the people that are in our nest, and kind of being everyone's mother. And he honors that. So we make a really good team in that way. And like I said, we really respect each other's point of view. I can almost tell exactly what he's going to say to me about something, and vice versa. And so we can anticipate that, reflect on that, and then bring it to each other like professionals, but respect each other like a personal relationship.
Totally.
And I think sometimes that gets missed.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, does he handle oversee one side of the business and you the other? Kind of, what does that look like?
Yeah, for the most part. So, everything, it's Michael's business. So there's not a lot that I do that isn't at least run by him.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he trusts my instinct and my discernment over anything that comes across for me.
Totally.
He handles all of the blue mat stuff. Our mats are still blue. All of our blue mat stuff. He handles like all the programming, and he works with the coaches to be, awesome on the floor. And then I sort of work with the coaches more on like the operations, taking care of like the client's first experiences and all of that good stuff. And so I take care of kind of the back of the house. In the theater, we'd say I'm the back of the house and he's the front of the house. Yeah, but we know that there's a lot of crossover there too. Even when I have somebody who is struggling emotionally in my office and we're dealing with nutrition, but we're really not dealing with nutrition, right? I'm able to communicate that to him because that's going to affect their performance on the mats. And then it's going to affect their ego and affect their emotional state when he has them. Yep. So it's like we're, sharing custody of these people that we love and that we want to impact. And so we do kind of split it, but we both are part of everything. And even like I don't own the business, but I don't think there's a single decision that Michael doesn't hit me with. And so we both get to collaborate. And even if it's not important to me, like I don't do whatever you want on that. That doesn't matter to me. And vice versa. Like there's nothing that we don't just circularly consistently talk about.
Yeah.
So that it seems to work out.
Totally, and it does. And obviously, outside eyes looking in, you guys have a beautiful relationship and working relationship. So, wanted to just drill in a little bit to share with our audience, like this, because partnerships can be hard, right?
They can, but all kinds. Yeah. And sometimes, like some days, like I'll start to say something, and then I'll see it's just not going to be the day for that, right? And then we just back off from that. And again, like the four of us, his wife and my husband, we're all friends, and we joke about like work wife, home husband, work husband, because there's a lot of personal information going back and forth. There's a lot of professional things going back and forth, and then we have to take care of our team, and then we need to take care of our clients, and it can get complicated. So like really respecting and knowing the person, I think, is just key. And again, like we're back to the parrots and the eagles and all of that. Like, I know that I know how to get him to buy into things. He knows how to get me to buy into things, and then we can move forward. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Pretty well.
All right. So transitioning down and something I want just to drill in a little bit deeper for you, because I know he handles the front of the business, still like the client engagement, but on the back end of the business, on the operations, but you do a lot of nutrition coaching. So I wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit, kind of share some of your experiences in nutrition coaching, and also like the parallels on how your past, story has really helped you, get clients incredible results.
Yeah, I like to think so.
I know so.
Well, thank you. I feel like I come at it with a unique perspective. They say that like your demons are the ones that can really push you to where you're supposed to be, and in that case, like it really has. And I reflect on it all the time, like to think that I'm literally sitting here right now talking to you about this it cannot, it's so bizarre. So when I get to counsel someone on nutrition, on emotional eating, on restriction, on binging, on, all of those things, on basic nutrition, what's a macro, all of those things are such a gift to me, because I just wish someone would have helped me with that. Like there was no Google, and there was no like coaching when I was younger. There might have been, but I don't know. Like I did Jenny Craig, and I did, all kinds of the other options, but that was just a person that weighed me.
Right.
And so to really engage with people, know what their values are, know what their lifestyle is, know how that affects their food, their nutrition, their health. It's so important. There's a whole spectrum of information that's important to know about a client. And I think that's what a lot of coaches in other brands or in other, coaches that are just on their own, they're missing, is that we're surfacing this whole person. Like it's not just a person that you can hand something to. Like their bodies work differently, their lives work differently, their children, their husbands, they're special.
And one of the things you said just recently, just a few moments ago, you're like, well, we were talking about nutrition, but not really talking about nutrition.
Totally not about that.
There's a lot to that, right? Because
Absolutely.
your job as a coach is not just nutrition, it's the whole package.
It is.
So, if you can give some insight to our audience who, again, are interested in kind of taking that leap of faith, maybe they haven't ever, coached a client on nutrition. So, like, what does that look like? What are the common objections or concerns or issues that you come up with? I think would be really insightful to kind of give some insight.
Sure. So, one of the things that we deal with a lot are we do deal with a lot of women that are mothers, and they're working mothers, and so they're not used to putting themselves as a priority at all. And then when we really start to talk about like why do you feel that way? Why don't you think that you have 30 minutes? Or why don't you think that it's important that you prep your food in advance? Or why don't you? Instead of just like, well, this is how you would do it. This is why you should do it. Like, why don't you? Well, I don't really have time. Well, why don't you have time? Well, I have my kids and I have my work. And when you start drilling it down, it typically comes down to the answer is that they just don't think they're important enough. They don't think they're worth it. They don't think that they're a priority. And there's all kinds of messaging from everywhere that tells us that, as women especially, like if we're paying attention to ourselves, that we're being selfish. And it's absolutely ridiculous, but I bought into it for the longest time. Like the longer my hair got and the more unhealthy I got, like that just showed I was a good mom. Like I was taking care of my kids. So I understand that part of it. There's a lot of times where there is a lot of shame associated with being overweight. And so when you can kind of drill down and get them to realize that the things that are keeping them from moving forward is typically like a shame response. They're ashamed that they've let themselves get overweight. They're ashamed that they don't know what to eat. They're ashamed that their children are eating the same way they do. They're ashamed. There's such pain associated with being overweight. Again, as fitness professionals, we focus on like diabetes and we focus on heart disease and we focus on bad knees, but we don't really focus on the emotional havoc that it has on you. And no one wants to be the fat mom and no one wants to be the fat daughter. And when we can sit down and just talk about like, what would it, my favorite question is, if we had a magic wand today, like what would we accomplish? What would that be? That thing that you would leave here and no one ever not one time in 3 years has anyone ever said, I'd be a size 4. Like nobody says that. But they do want to feel proud of themselves, and they do want to feel strong, and they do want to have their husbands think they're attractive, and they do want to be able to leave their husband if they aren't a good husband, but they're stuck there. And they do want to be able to feel like they can make moves in their lives. It's never about the cookie. It's never about the bikini. It's never about the vacation. There's always something deeper.
That's like the topical thing, right? But really it's the foundations what we're getting at.
I actually had someone the other day, and she's such a special client to me. But she shared with me that she's now in her mid-40s and she's been with this partner for such a long time, and now she has remained overweight for so long that she didn't have children, and now she can't. And she's with this partner, and she's still struggling with food, and she's with this partner that she hasn't had a child with, and she just has all of these layers. And I am just a nutrition coach, like I'm not her therapist, but all of those layers of pain, of not being a mother, of not having a good partner, of not having the job that she wants, all of them were aligned with this shame around being overweight, and her shame around her addiction, and her shame around all, and it is just like suffocating to me, because that could have been me, and it is her. And she's done so beautifully. She's lost 50 pounds. She's just doing so great, but she still has this identity and this shame. And so getting to really sit down, dig into like, what can we do today? What does success look like for you today? What's the next best decision we can make? Like, one of the biggest objections I get is like, I don't know if I can keep doing it like this time next year. And I'm like, you don't have to. Like, what's for lunch?
Yeah, what's today? Yeah.
When's your workout today, right? Like, what's the next thing? So as a coach, like drilling down, like the things that are important to them, the struggles they're having, and really being able to relate with them on what their specific struggles are and how we can help them manage them. I think it's a gift, like that we get to even be a part of that. Yeah, it's really special.
Amen. And I will acknowledge you and for that. And I know your journey was not in vain. There's no doubt in my mind. And having worked with you for a few years now, like your level of care, concern, and your past journey has really helped shape not only this client but your clientele. So I think that's a superpower of yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope so. I want to be a super coach.
I know so. I know so. All right, Miss Darrylyn, the last big kind of topic that I want to touch upon when I think of you is really personal growth, self-development. I was at dinner with Michael yesterday and said, Bryce, you remind me of Darrylyn. You guys are both addicted to know. KNOW, like always want to know and learn. You're also part of our mastermind group, which is a high performance group, leadership group, personal development group. So can you kind of showcase for the audience just a little bit about your views on personal development and how it's helped you in your journey?
Oh my gosh, there's nothing like it. Nutrition is so important in fitness. So we think it's about the workouts. It's probably not about the workouts. Oh, it's about the nutrition. Okay, fine, the 80-20 thing going on. But the real magic is the mindset. Like the real magic is like when you're like, oh yeah, I totally deserve this. Oh yeah, I totally could do this. Oh yes, of course I should be doing this. That's where the real magic happens. And the only way to do that is to like discover your superpowers and to really like change your lens. Like how are you looking at things? And so I have just found that, and a credit to my dad, like even in the 80s, like he listened to Zig Ziglar and he listened to, Jim Rohn, and he had the tape, the thing that folded out like this with like the 12 tape sets, and he would listen to them. And, so that possibility thinking, like that nothing's really out of your reach, like that you absolutely could do anything, given the right tools, given the right connections, given the right circumstances, given the right education, like you could absolutely do whatever it is you want. And then you kind of get to a point when as you grow up, that you start to think, well, yeah, you could, but will you? Like, is that really real that anyone could really do anything? Oh, I don't know. There's a lot that goes to that. But then when you start like learning from people that are really superb coaches or really superb authors or really superb like business people, and you start like seeing the things that they do over and over and over and over and over again, and there's all these ideas, and you just start dissecting one by one, and you start applying them to your life, and you watch your life explode, well then there's no denying it, right? Mm-hmm. So like whether it's a book, a book by Mel Robbins, life-changing for me, or a podcast by Elizabeth Benton, and she, has all of these awesome ideas for coaches. And then you've got like stoicism, and then, you've got like all of these great ideas and concepts, and you just start like putting them all together, and they make you a better person. Mm-hmm. Like it's not one idea, it's not one religion, it's not one, person or identity. Like it's this whole montage of like beautiful knowledge. Mm-hmm. I get so excited about it.
Well, I love it, and I get excited with you. Yeah. And actually, I don't think you know this, but I was telling Michael yesterday, but a book recommendation that you made to our mastermind group maybe like a month ago, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge.
When You're Not in Charge.
Just finished that.
That's a good one.
I was going to follow up with you, and just some good takeaways there.
There are, and it's not a hard read, and that's what I found too. Like the things that are not they're not complicated things. Like they're things that maybe our parents should have taught us, but they're just so profound. Mm-hmm. And that book is a great example of that, like How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. Like, well, when you really think about that, like most of us aren't ultimately in charge. You're vice president of Fit Body Bootcamp, but you're not the only person in charge. But
even the other aspect of it, even the CEO of Bedros, okay, there's one above me. He still has other responsibilities and people to hold him accountable, right?
Right, and and your locations, like you have your team, like they're going to pull you in,
Mm-hmm.
You're going to ultimately have the say, but you're going to hear all of those different perspectives. So you're not ultimately in charge there either, right? Because it still is a team.
It's still a team.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. So I love that book. Yeah. And that's I'm big on mindset with my kids. And we talk about those things all of the time. And talking about, fear and red flags that will tell you, that this is something I have to move forward and do. Mm-hmm. And there are so many things that they have learned early in their lives that I didn't. And it's I just can't wait to see what they do, because they have this knowledge already that I got when I was 40 or 42 or 43.
Young. Yeah, they're well ahead.
Yeah, the other day we were at a hotel. Our kids were doing a big dance convention. You'll relate to this. the power went out. The power was out the whole day. Everything got canceled. It was really terrible. Like after a year of COVID and not getting to do their events, they're finally getting to go to this event, and the power goes out, and these poor kids, 1,000 kids, can't do their thing. And my daughter says, well, it's not happening to us, it's happening for us, right? And I was all, you're awesome,
yes.
right? And that's the sort of like stuff that she's just carrying with her. I didn't have to point it out. I didn't have to tell them, like, she's got that tucked away in her heart, right? So.
Well, that's some good influence and good parenting as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good job, Ed Milet.
You're awesome. Well, this has been so informative, and I just love your story. I'm like
Thank
so
you.
impacted by it, and I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thanks for having me.
Totally. All right. So as we shift gears and kind of the last little bit of time where we can go through the lightning round, I'm going to basically tee up some good questions for you to share your knowledge for it.
All right.
All right. Cool. Let's see. Zone of genius. What would you say, Darrylyn, is your zone of genius? Why have you been so successful to date?
I think I know how much I don't know, but I really trust myself. I have. I trust my gut. I have good discernment over people and circumstances. And so, and I've surrounded myself with people that know me well enough to trust my discernment as well. And so I trust myself. I think that's kind of a big deal. Even having switched to fitness, like my gut will tell me what direction to go.
Totally.
Yeah.
I also think that you're such a straight shooter, which is so refreshing. You mean what you say what you mean.
Thanks.
And that goes a long way in business and life.
I appreciate that. Sometimes it's a little hard.
All right. The unique value bomb. What would you say is one thing that our audience who are fitness professionals or going to be fitness professionals, they should know, but they actually probably don't?
Yeah, so this is a hard one for me, but I feel like Dr. Berardi, in his book, he talked about fitness people in fitness, getting into fitness with the intention of coaching more fit people. And I know that for me, that's what I thought. I thought like if you go to an unemployment office, like everyone there is unemployed, right? That's what's expected. But if you go to like a gym, I guess everyone's expected to be fit. I don't know. That's what I thought. And I think that sometimes coaches, fitness professionals need to recognize like that fitness is for everyone, right? Like fitness was for me in 3rd grade and in 6th grade and in 8th grade, but no one told me. One
thing you said earlier, you realize if you have a message you parlay in your family is if you have a body, fitness is for you.
Fitness is for you, right? And that I just. That's what Fit Body Bootcamp taught me, because when I was there at first, like there were people that I went to high school with in there, and they were fit in high school and they were fit now, and I was working out next to them. Now they were still way more fit than I, but we were able to be in the same class doing the same workout for that same 30 minutes, and fitness was for me, right? It wasn't just for them anymore. Yeah.
Love it. All right, next up. Looking back at your younger self, and you've had quite the journey, what was the one thing holding you back, and ultimately how did you overcome that?
I think fear of other people's judgment. Even though in lots of areas, like I can move forward and I can just make decisions and execute really well. When it would come to like my worthiness, or if I deserve something, or if I should do something, I was, and I continue to deal with it, fearful of what other people might think or say about me. Rob Dial says, like, we're not who we are, we're who we think they think we are, right? And so, like, if I'm thinking, like, this is who Bryce thinks I am, so I need to be that person, but really, like, who knows what Bryce thinks I am?
Totally.
So when you start, like, getting out of that, like, I am what I am, and I'm willing to be a well-behaved eagle, but also I'm still who I am, and I'll just move forward with that and not be so afraid of that. It's a big deal for me.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Next up, book recommendation. You are a reader, addicted to know, KNOW.
Yes.
Give us maybe even more, but at least one solid book recommendation.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So for my clients, but everybody should read them. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, total game changer. Like if you have a struggle with procrastination, getting out of bed, all sorts of common situations, circumstances that people find them in, Mel Robbins is awesome. Great, like tactical, strategic things to do. Love her.
I will support that. Awesome book.
Thank you. Also for clients, but for coaches, for anyone interested in transformation and change, I am telling you this book is magic, and it's hardly anyone knows about it. Elizabeth Benton's Chasing Cupcakes. She just read it. It's great for clients. It's great for coaches. It's great for anyone who wants to make change. And like I said, everybody has a vice. Everybody has change that needs to be made, whether it's relational, financial, with your body, that one. And then the last one, Jeff Olson's. This book is always within 10 feet of me. Like it's at work, it's at home, it's in my car. I'm never not reading this book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Super underrated. I don't ever hear anyone talk about it. Phenomenal. It's not even on Audible. Best ever.
Well, you've led me always in a good path, so I'm going to take you up on that, and I would encourage our audience to do the same. Couple more here, Darrylyn. Passion. I feel like you're a very passionate person. We are passionate people.
Yeah.
What would you say is one of your big passions today, and why?
My big passion is I want to change the way people think of themselves. I want them to be aware of the thoughts that they think of themselves every day. I want them to know what it is they think about themselves, and then to question why they think that. Mm-hmm. Because if you can, actually Mel Robbins says this, if you can change your thoughts, you can change your lives. And that is, there are no truer words. And when I think of the things I used to think about myself, it's so sad. And if I'm not aware of them, I will go right back there. And so changing people's thoughts, getting them to be aware of their thoughts is like a number one passion I have with my clients and with everybody.
I love it.
Yeah.
Last question. We've literally learned so much. I've gotten so much value. And just so everyone knows, our audience, as we book this podcast, both our responses, we were scared to do it, which taking that leap of faith is always challenging.
Yes.
But I told Darrylyn we're going to be scared together because I'm right there with you. So
yeah, thank you.
But finish us home, bring us home. What would be your last parting piece of wisdom for our audience who are interested in fitness and business and entrepreneurship, just to make their life or their business better? What would that last piece of parting wisdom be?
This is going to probably sound simple, but take off the drama, like remove the drama. Like X happened, the end. I hear just drama from my clients. I hear drama from my children. I hear drama from my friends. And when I repeat the circumstance to them, removing the drama, like this happened and then this happened. What should we do now? It changes everything. Mm-hmm. Your entire perspective can change. So, if you're having anxiety about something, like if you just break it down to like, I want to do this and this is why, that's enough. Like you don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to have all the emotion. Like you can move forward without all the answers. Remove the drama. It's big habit.
Amen. Sage advice. Well, Darrylyn, this has been incredible. I'm so excited we finally did it.
Thank you.
And before we go, I just want to take a second to acknowledge you. It's been an honor and a privilege working together for the last few years.
Thank you.
I'm just so blown away. The way you show up, your intensity, your drive, your willingness to, stay hungry, learn more, be more. And I just have so much respect for that. Additionally, your journey, your story is absolutely incredible. And there's no doubt in my mind you were put on this planet to basically help people that were in your situation or in a variety of spectrums, but to really better themselves so they can basically impact the world in a positive way. So I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. That's very nice. Thank
you. I'm just, cheering you on as you continue to change lives. And, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a deep honor.
This is awesome.
Truly. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And friends, I know you got a ton of value today. I certainly did. And assuming so, please go ahead and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and go ahead and write an awesome review on our iTunes. And that way we can keep continuing producing this awesome content for free. So that's all for today. Darrylyn, thank you again. And you guys have a fabulous day.